Hey there, today I'm going to be talking about two of the more unique girls from the Marvel Universe, as one is besties with Galactus, defeated Thanos and Fin Fang Foom single-handedly, and the other may or may not be a mutant with reality warping powers. It's kind of hard to tell what with all of the reality warping. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. Alright, Squirrel Girl and Gwenpool are characters that I know of and have known of, but never really too much about them. I know a bit more of Squirrel Girl from her time with the Avengers, and when she was Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' babysitter slash nanny. But as characters do when they change artists and authors, she has quite a different style now. Regardless, they are both coming out swinging. So let's start with Squirrel Girl, who has the alter ego of Doreen Green. She has 6 stamina, moves medium, is size 2 for 4 threat. Her defenses across the board are 3, so nothing too fancy there. Her first attack is Knuckle Spike Strike. It is a range 3 5-die strike that costs nothing. It'll gain her power equal to damage dealt, and on a wild, she must be placed within range 1 of the target after the attack is resolved. So, when making this attack, make sure you have a place you won't mind landing at. But otherwise, this is a pretty solid punch with some range and movement potential as well. Army of Squirrels is her spender. It has a range of 4, strength of 6 for just 2 power. On a wild, you will get to push the target character short in any direction as long as they are size 3 or less. And before damage is dealt, which is always nice as it gives you a little bit more control over the enemy if the attack also ends up dazing them. However, if it doesn't daze them and you at least damage them, you will get to give them both the bleed and stun conditions after the attack is resolved. And those are her 2 attacks. Nothing really too crazy here. Her superpowers, though, kick that trend. Tippy Toe Takedown is an active power that costs X, and this is a lot of text, so I'm going to paraphrase it a bit, and actually, really, we need to first read Squirrelese, her innate powers, so that this one makes sense. Squirrel Girl starts the game with her good friend Tippy Toe in the form of a token. While they are hanging out together, Squirrel Girl gets to reroll 2 dice on any attack, defense, or dodge roll. You can move Tippy Toe back to Squirrel Girl during the power phase if she is somewhere else, and must do so when an enemy character that has Tippy Toe is dazed or KO'd, or when Doreen herself is dazed or removed from the table. With that in mind, let's look at Tippy Toe Takedown. You will choose an enemy within range 3 of this character and spend power equal to their threat level. You can then move Tippy Toe to that enemy character. While that enemy character has Tippy Toe, it doesn't get to count crits as successes or add more dice from any crits rolled in. So, kind of like Super Hex. As well, when Doreen is targeted by an attack, she can call Tippy Toe back to her with, well, Tippy Come Back. It's a reactive power that's free and will let Tippy Toe come back to Squirrel Girl to help out with those defense dice. Squirrel Girl does also have the innate power of Wall Crawler, which makes sense, what with her having the powers of a squirrel. She does have a couple of changes on her injured side, though. Her stamina drops down to 5, and she loses Tippy Come Back and gains the saddest superpower in the game, Guardian Squirrel. It says when this character would be KO'd by an enemy effect, if Squirrel Girl has Tippy Toe, remove the token from the game. Doreen removes 1 damage from herself, is not KO'd, and places herself within range 2 of her current location. So the heroic Tippy Toe makes the ultimate sacrifice to save her bestie. So once you have Squirrel Girl on her injured side, you're probably going to want to make sure she keeps Tippy close and isn't sending her out early in the round, because the only way to get her back is by laying out the enemy character or during the power phase. So, at a glance, Doreen Green is, well, I'm not really sure, to be honest. She will either be a relatively good beatdown character while keeping Tippy near, getting to reroll 2 dice is great on attacks, and Spider Sense on Miles has kept him alive plenty of times, even if there's also times where it doesn't really do anything. She has some mobility with her builder, as long as you get the wild, and she has some control with her spender, again, as long as you get the wild. which is more likely if you have Tippy Toe with you at least. And a lot of what Squirrel Girl has going for her in this department can be replicated by a character like Medusa. Tippy Toe, though, is what really makes Squirrel Girl shine. Making it so that a target's defense dice only has 2 successes and can't explode crits is really good. Making it so that a character only have 3 successes on attacks with no exploding is also really good. Doing this on problem pieces like Domino, Malekith, or whoever is wielding the reality gem this week is near priceless. Now, sure, Corvus still counts blanks, so he'll still be killing off characters left and right as he does, but man, Tippy Toe will just wreck the consistency of the Tiger King in a big way. It's going to be tough to say when you should be sending Tippy Toe off to harass an enemy and when to keep her with Squirrel Girl. After looking at some numbers, this is what I found. This is a 5-die attack with 2 rerolls against 3 defense with no modification. Then next to it we have what that same attack looks like if Tippy Toe was on the defender. All in all, more beneficial for Tippy Toe to stay with Squirrel Girl. Now what if the defender has some sort of defensive tech, like counting blanks? Well, the percentages change, but the story stays the same. On the far left, we have the 5-die attack with 2 rerolls into a 3-dice defense that counts blanks, and then the second one takes away the rerolls and applies super hex to the 3-dice counting blanks. So really on offense as a rule, it's going to be best to keep Tippy Toe close unless we are dealing with a character who gets additional benefit from crits like Domino and Malekith. In which case, the best use of Tippy Toe, tackle, takedown is going to be for defense, right? Actually, it's an understatement. Here is a 5 dice into 3 dice with 2 rerolls, compared then to a super hexed 5-die attack into 3 defense dice with no modification. Those results are a bit nuts to me because there are some big number swings and they are the opposite of what the results showed from the attacks. So keep Tippy Toe around for the attacks and then throw him at the target most likely to deal out some damage to help keep them in check. And it will also help your other allied characters out a good bit as well. I went on a little bit of a dice tangent there. I do quickly want to touch on her cons before moving on to affiliation talk real quickly. Thankfully, there's only 2 and they're kind of able to be wrapped up into one. Her displacement and her bonus movement are tied not just to actions, but then are also dice reliant. Regardless of this, Squirrel Girl has a nice kit overall, and the rerolls will help with that consistency, but she's not always going to be the perfect example of consistency at the end of the day. We don't know the affiliations at the time of recording here, but there is a good chance that she is at least an Avenger, which is a little unfortunate since she doesn't really synergize with Steve at all. She could probably do some cool stuff with Sam, but nothing that really excites me personally. Outside of the Avengers, though, the 2 places I would like to see her are working undercover with Shadowlands Daredevil or be an honorary web warrior with Miles. Either way, she is getting more rerolls and the ability to modify the dreaded skull that all characters that have any kind of DOS modification hate. We have seen the tactic cards coming with these 2 though, and I hope you're ready for some more math. Inexplicable Demise is an unaffiliated active team tactic card that can be played during Squirrel Girl's activation. It also has a lot of text, so in summary, you can spend power equal to the threat value of an enemy character within range 2. You then roll that amount of dice, and if you roll one of 5 different combinations of results, you get to do some different things. First a slow for a crit, then a slow and a stagger for a crit and a wild, then slow, stagger, and root. 4 successes adds on stun, but if you manage the perfect sequence of getting a crit, wild, hit, block, and failure result, you can instantly KO the target. At the time of recording this reveal, it's less than a day old. People are all over the place with thoughts on this card. Thankfully, someone smarter than me has done the math of likelihood to get the right combination of 5 successes at each threat value from 5 threat up, because you can't get 5 successes when you only roll 4 dice. So, needless to say that if your goal in playing this card is to try to KO a model, you're going to have a rough time of it. Now, don't get me wrong, these status conditions you can hand out are a nice runner-up kind of prize, but it's a lot of power to spend where if you don't roll a crit, you'd get nothing. I will say I like that this card gets stronger the tougher the target, which is very much in line with what Squirrel Girl is known for. And while this card may see some play because it's fun, when it comes to these big targets, I think I would rather just throw Tippy Toe at them for the same power cost and get a guaranteed effect off rather than risking 7 power for a 6% chance at dazing someone like Malekith. The other card that both of the girls can play is They Say Keep Your Enemies Closer. It's another unaffiliated active team tactic card that can be played by a Squirrel Girl or a Gwenpool by spending 3 power, and it will give their next attack a special bonus, depending on whether or not the target is within range 1 or not. If the target is within range 1, then they don't get any defense dice. Like, at all. So, this is a tank buster tactic card that is going to be great for dealing with Steve Rogers, Black Panthers, and others who just get really consistent defense dice. This isn't quite so much the tool for a character like Hulk, who has a ton of stamina and a decent defense pool. I mean, it's good to get damage in that way, but the range 1 use is to shut down those consistent dice pools that are just hard to deal with. However, if the target is outside of range 1 after the attack is resolved, you get to place the enemy character within range 1 of the character that just made the attack. So, potentially a really big pool out of position kind of card. I mean, both Squirrel Girl and Gwenpool have range 4 attacks, so this could be like a range 5 place. Sure, next to your character, but if it gets them off a point, or maybe into the middle of your team after that enemy has already activated, you can just pile on the damage, and, well, it's got some solid uses. Personally, I am more likely to bring this with Doreen, since she can get some rerolls to help make the opponent's defenseless roll count for that much more, and she even has a trigger on her attack to get placed within range 1 of an enemy anyway. If you're looking for the displacement, I still think Squirrel Girl takes the cake there as well, because her range 4 spender only costs 2 instead of 4, which we'll talk about more in just a moment. And with that, Gwenpool has the alter ego of Gwendolyn Pool. She has 6 stamina, moves medium, is size 2, and 4 threat. She's rocking a 4-3-4 defense line, along with some plot armor to make her a durable piece, while not quite to the level of tanky. Her first attack is a physical stabby swords. It has a range of 2, strength of 5, and costs nothing. Like a typical builder, it will gain her power equal to the damage dealt, and on a wild, you get to pierce one of your opponent's successes and turn it into a blank. So, a solid builder, nothing crazy, but still better than average. Gwenpool's Bag of Tricks is her next physical attack. It has a range and strength of 4 for no power. It will get her 1 guaranteed power, but if you also manage a wild and a hit, you get to apply 1 of 4 conditions. Whether that is bleed, shock, incinerate, or poison is up to you. 2 of those are really nasty ones with the shock and incinerate, lowering the target's attack or strength or defense pool respectively. Then her big finale spender is an energy, this end toward target. It has a range of 4, strength of 8, and cost 4 power. No matter what else happens, the target is both incinerated and stunned, but if you get a wild in your roll, all other characters, both enemy and allied, within range 2 of the target will suffer 1 damage and gain the incinerate condition. So, not quite Bob's Rocket, but this one is much easier to reload and pretty close to the levels of chaos it can cause. We then have 3 powers. First is Travel Through Glitter Space. It's an active power that costs 2 and lets Gwen place herself within range 3 of her current location once per turn. But she can't be holding an objective when she does it. I'm not sure if there's some thematic reasoning going on behind that, but it's an odd restriction given the wall crawlers that swing around and aren't as inhibited by this extra clause. Regardless, we then have Retcon Powers Activate. It's a reactive power that costs 1 to 3 and can be used when she is attacking or defending. For each power spent, she can reroll that many dice. It's also once per turn, but consistency is always a welcome commodity. Then we have the aforementioned innate plot armor. Anytime that she would suffer damage from an enemy effect, reduce that amount of damage by 1 to a minimum of 1, and there are no changes on her injured side. So let's get into it. Gwendolyn has plenty going for her here. A above average builder, a good if somewhat restrictive place effect, dice manipulation, a long range gainer, and a big spender and even damage reduction. All in all, a lot to like. Heck, she even has a variety of status conditions to hand out from her gainer. While she does have a lot of things to love, there are a couple of things to nitpick at. The glaring one mostly from the weirdness that is no objective clause on her glitter space web swing. Maybe in combination with other stuff on her card, she needed a drawback there. I'm not sure. The other two knocks are more of an absence is the lack of control and the lack of additional damage sources, which makes sense given that she has Pierce on her builder and dice consistency with her retcon powers, so she still holds up really well. All in all, I think if you are someone who has enjoyed playing Rogue, but you wish she had some more consistency and some ranged attacks, you get Gwenpool, but at the cost of your throws. All in all, it seems like a fair trade-off, just depending on what you value more. In a team like Brotherhood, where terrain throws are important to you, you're probably going to want Rogue. But in a team where dice modification is important, like Web Warriors or Shadowlands, Gwen's value is probably higher. And like Doreen, I think that those two affiliations will be high on Gwen's list to splash into. As far as taking a stab at where she will be affiliated, honestly, I was a little bit surprised that she's not a rogue agent, so I could see her being in several spots or none similar to Punisher. Time will tell. There is also one last team tactic card to talk about for her with no, try this one. It's an unaffiliated reactive card that can be played during the cleanup phase for free. You can basically play this card to snag one of your other 5 unused tactic cards that you didn't bring into the game from your roster and play it as normal. I really like this idea and the flexibility that it brings. It will require a little bit of planning though, as you have to get it during the cleanup phase, but being able to leave a character-specific card in reserve until you know it's needed could be big in case that character ends up getting KO'd before it would have ever been played in the first place. I think Keep Your Enemies Closer is the star of this group of tactic cards, but really, I think they're all solid in their own ways. Let me know which is your favorite down below in the comments. If you do, it's going to enter you into the monthly giveaway to get an MCP expansion of your choice from Tritex. All you need to do is be subscribed to the channel and leave a comment on a video that was released within that same month. The more videos you comment on, the more chances you have at winning. If you're shopping for your mini stuff online, consider using Tritex, one of the guild sponsors, to support an LGS that hosts game nights and a place to play for their local players. If you do shop with them online, use the code TritexGGCP5 at checkout for an extra 5% off, and it will use, if you use that on a pre-order item like, well, Gwenpool and Squirrel Girl, it'll end up saving you 25% off of MRSP. I will mention that Tritex is taking pre-orders for Shatterpoint as well, if that is something you are interested in, and the discount code works for that as well now. If you're shopping in the US, you can head to gamechefs.org and use the code GamersGuild, no spaces, to save an extra 15% off of their already discounted prices, which comes out to a really, really good bargain on your end. However, I will continue to say, if you're shopping from your own LGS, just keep supporting them. We all understand and appreciate that. And with that note, I want to say thanks to the members of the Guild Hall who are supporting the channel and now 2 podcasts with your contributions. That support means the world to us and is allowing us to continue to expand what the Gamers Guild is and does, and so I'm very, very thankful to you all. For those still watching, thank you guys for checking us out and watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.